Fanatic, your favorite podcast about current events, politics, and more. We're going to start out tonight with talks about the California wildfires. Unfortunately, there's a lot of new homeless people now, not like the old homeless in California that just seem to have mental health problems.
And street defecation issues.
Yeah, but actual good people who own homes and now don't have homes. Hopefully the YMCA will help out a lot of them.
It is sad though. Death toll count is rising to 24, I believe. And now, hey, we're receiving help from Mexico. They've just sent 100 or so firefighters to come and help, who are not DEI lesbians. So hopefully they'll actually get some work done.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a lesbian, but, well, that's a complicated topic. But in charge of the firefighting department doesn't seem like necessarily the best match. We really should be hiring firefighters based on their skill sets, not based on their gender identity.
I also heard that a lot of firefighters were previously fired for refusing vaccines.
Well, that's always a good way to weed out the independently minded. So, want firefighters to be very capable of making tough decisions, excelling under pressure, not being suicidal,
physically fit,
idle,
and capable.
Yeah, able to carry somebody up out of their house. Which do we have that clip ready to play about what the LA firefighters thinks of somebody who needs rescued?
Yes, it's extremely sad. You guys need a view.
I'm not sure if the clip is actually queued. Do we have any confirmation from our tech man?
Or should I show the clip?
Yeah, no, just go ahead and show it, Dakota.
Okay.
Roll clip A.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Okay, when I'm in the middle of an emergency situation, I don't care for someone who looks like me. I care for someone who's capable for the job at hand. I'm not looking for someone who looks like me.
Can we not gloss over the last part of that video?
Right, yes.
What were those words?
I'm not physically capable of removing a person from a fire, from a lethal situation. It's their fault for getting so. That almost sounds like she dressed for it. Like she got herself in that situation. He got himself in that situation. Regardless of how he ended up in that situation is possibly lethal. You're the professional. Do your job. What?
You're the person that should have a gas mask. There's probably people that are passed out from smoke inhalation, and I don't need to be able to carry you. You might be passed out from literally breathing in fire from the smoke from the fire I'm rescuing you
got
from.
himself in that situation. Absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah, the vibe I was getting from that is if I have to actually come to your house and do my job and I can't do it, it's your fault. Like, I don't want to have to do my job. Like, being a firefighter is about sitting around at the station, playing cards.
Right.
You know.
So let me break it down really fast because these are the three people now in charge of LA's fire response, okay? And all three of them are lesbians, and all three of them are named Kristen. I'm not making this up. All right, so first, Kristen Crowley is the first LGBTQ fire chief of the LAFD. Her salary is just shy of $500,000, so $439,000. Christina Kepner, the first lesbian assistant chief. So you kind of see what's happened, right? One person gets hired, and then, like she said, I want to see someone like me. So they hire, boom, another lesbian beneath them. And then Kristen Larson, who we saw in the clip, first Black lesbian equity bureau chief.
What's the salary on that?
Oh, sorry, just shy of $400,000 a year. $399,000 annually for equity bureau chief. Now, I'm not sure what that entails, if that's part of the painting, the fire hydrants rainbow, but they're sure not running water to put the fires out. So whatever their priorities are, they're absolutely backwards.
No,
and again,
they are certainly not.
I don't have much faith in these people to be doing things like putting out fire.
Who's the one you can't tell the gender? The one in the
that is Kristen Larson. That's the one who we saw from the clip.
What gender do they go by this week?
All the people here claim to be female.
Oh.
But that one in the middle, I would absolutely bet against those chromosomes being XX.
Definitely kind of like one of the don't want in the girls' locker rooms sort of situations.
Absolutely.
Tough. And the results is that the wildfires are uncontained at this point. They don't really seem to be winning. They're once again blaming the weather. It's the wind's fault.
Thankfully, our president, our strong leader, is gracing these victims with $707. Now, I don't know how much that's going to get you in LA, but I mean that wouldn't even get you that far here in Ohio. I mean, if you're lucky, that's a month's rent. In LA, I doubt it. I don't know what that is. That's not even a fucking grocery run from in LA, is it?
Well, in LA, they don't really have grocery stores. They pretty much had to shut down because of all the shoplifting and stuff. It's kind of like, the local CVS where you have an employee unlock all the containers for you so you can shop.
And not to mention a lot of these homes that burned down are multi-million-dollar homes. Some of them are $80 million plus houses that recently had their insurance pulled.
I wonder how many of them are going to choose not to rebuild. Do they have to take the home rebuild? Because I know with typical house insurance, you kind of have to take the house being rebuilt. But with them, if any of them can walk away, maybe they know their real estate is overpriced and they just want to get that check and run.
No, most of them are not going to be getting any check of any kind. The insurance for the whole entire Los Angeles area, for the most part, from like two of the top insurance dealers, discontinued fire insurance as of December or earlier 2024. Most of these people are not getting any money.
And this is a yearly occurrence in this state, correct? I mean,
yes.
Wildfires in California is nothing new.
No.
And with winds only intensify, or that's how they have been tracking kind of historically lately. And I know they are, as we speak right now, they're bracing for more intense winds in this following week. Yeah, it's quite unfortunate.
Far into conspiracy land, but the winds, I think the winds are one of the easiest things that if somebody were throttling the weather, making a high pressure system and a low pressure system are probably the easiest things to do, and that's how you make high wind speeds.
And we don't even need to go down conspiracy theories, but there has been arrest and footage of people starting these fires. Through arson, possible migrants or illegal aliens doing this, people blow torches.
Homeless people.
And also just a lot of weird footages of like buildings being burned, but then like neighboring or nearby shrubbery or foliage not being burned. Like things you would think like if a fire is raging and hot, it would easily be catching nearby trees and bushes and fires. But no, it's just entire structures have engulfed in flames and then subsequently collapsed.
No, so the fires are crazy. Some of these places look absolutely apocalyptic.
And now looting is going rampant. We have reports of people dressing up in emergency gear as first responders. Every time I do emerge, I always forget. And then looting houses. And apparently there's been 3 criminals who stole $200,000 from evacuated homes during the fire. And wow, 2 of them are facing life in prison. Jesus.
Gavin Newsom is going to arrest somebody for looting? Oh my God.
LA's newly elected DA, Nate Hunchman, announces charges. So not Gavin Newsom. No.
Okay. A district attorney that might maybe do his job, at least if there's a major natural disaster at the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty sick. People literally taking advantage of those, like going through like an actual tragedy like this. But hey.
Well, in LA, there's a lot of actors and a lot of probably prop costumes laying around. So maybe you can just go rent a firefighter costume pretty easy in LA.
There's a very comical viral clip going around of a reporter asking people in LA what they think caused the fires, and a man blames it on all the gays in LA.
What do you think? It's like direct Sodom and Gomorrah or something like that?
Well, like what would lead us to believe that or anything?
No, I meant the consequences.
Right. And the location itself.
Fire and brimstone.
Yeah, and the kind of place that it is.
But to get back to kind of quell the insurance myth, no Levi, I don't think anyone is involuntarily without insurance in California. Like State Farm decided to pull out a few areas, but there's a California Fair plan that's available to all homeowners. So everyone in California, if they want to pay higher premiums, can have home insurance for fire. So
A California care plan?
fair plan. It's like state-backed fire insurance. Seems like.
Sure, but a lot of these people had their fire insurance taken away like in December. It was
Yeah, but
very
you can
recent.
instantly, if your policy got canceled, they usually have to give you a written notice in so many days in advance, and they
It's
could have
not
also.
their whole policy that got canceled, it's fire coverage.
Well, then they can get the fire insurance through California Fair Plan. So fire
If
insurance
they
was
knew
available
that
to.
their fire insurance was pulled within the last 2 months and made that switch, maybe.
Well, if you have an $80 million house, I'm sure it's your accountant's job to make sure that your investment is protected. So, and I'm sure the banks, if they have a loan on them, would also be very incentivized to make sure that you carry fire insurance in an area like that. They don't want to lose 80 million. So, I definitely don't see that all these people are just going to lose their houses and not get money. I'm not buying that at all.
Maybe.
No, I'm sure there were some people who had their insurance canceled and didn't bother getting new fire insurance. But at that point, it's like I heard a great post about all of this fire in general, is that he can have empathy for people in California, but not sympathy. And it was posted with a video of like a homeless guy trying to catch a phone pole or a palm tree on fire. And as he's trying to start a wildfire, basically, a cop just drives by and does nothing, just totally ignores him. So it's like, okay, if you're going to let homeless people start fires and have the police just totally let that slide, then yeah, you kind of get what you have coming. Like, that's a really inept government. You need to get rid of that mayor. You need to get somebody competent in charge. You need to get that fire DEI shit cut the hell out and actually have competent people in charge from the top down. What we have is not working.
No. What we
And
have
that's
is
where the people, there's some things that you can't ignore. Having your home burned down is a really hard thing to ignore. So it's definitely maybe just a symptom. That not being able to afford your rent, that's something that's hard to ignore. It's why a lot of people have left California. And California has more people
problems
leave
have been
every year than
obvious
any other
for
state.
many, many years. This is back from 2018. Donald Trump was saying wildfires are being magnified and made much worse by bad environmental laws that are not allowing massive amounts of readily available water to be properly utilized. What did we see during these fires?
Yeah.
Tons and tons of fire hydrants that are running dry, and not able to get any water from their
I
fire
didn't
hydrant.
even just hear about running dry, but also just low pressure. Apparently, low pressure was an issue in the system. That's really bad. This is a very important system. I've always heard that fire hydrants are so important. They have their own water supply. Like, they take them very seriously, and most municipalities that give half a shit.
Apparently, except for in California.
Yeah, and apparently they stopped a fleet of fire trucks incoming from another state due to emissions testings. So, where are their priorities?
It's definitely really sad. I know that they were getting stricter about their emission standards in California. I heard that basically, I heard that they were going to ban RV sales in California, and then of course the left press comes out and like, that's a total lie. We're just requiring that RV manufacturers increase their number of zero, carbon footprint vehicles, and they can keep selling gas RVs in California. But hey, what happens if you're an RV manufacturer that doesn't have an EV and you can't afford to research and develop one right now? Well, then, sorry, pack up and leave the state. You can't sell anyone an RV here. And LA is literally a place where people are living in RVs because they can't afford their rent. So it's like, okay, we're going to make housing too expensive for you to afford, and we're going to outlaw you buying an RV. Like, what do you think? How do you like this setup?
Yeah, just double whammy.
Yeah, it's just a total fuck you from the bureaucracy. We're going to have gas that's more expensive than anywhere in the country because we're going to mandate that we have our own fuel blend made that's not used anywhere else in the world, so we can have zero economies of scale. And then we're going to also require that they stockpile a bunch of that because, nobody wants to make it. So then it's going to expire, and it's going to literally raise the environmental impact because they have to keep this gas stockpile that has a limited expiration date. So they're just going to have to keep selling this little bit of gas that only California buys, and then also just keep emptying their tanks with old gasoline they had to store because of the mandate. Like, gas is going to stay very expensive in California, and the liberals love it. They're like, oh, we have expensive gas prices, it'll push EV adoption. What about all the people who can't afford a fucking EV payment and can't afford gas? It's just another one of these class things where the rich can laugh at you, and they're like, ha, 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 We're get chauffeured around in whatever we want. And if you need to get to work and pay your bills and raise your family, we really don't give a shit. Maybe get more food stamps. Be more dependent on the government. Don't try to figure it out on your own.
Welfare state, baby. I want to
Yeah.
push back on your insurance claims too, because how expensive would state-sponsored insurance be if it's making sure that it covers the thing that all of the major insurance companies specifically stop offering because they know that LA was a tinderbox. It had way too much brush. It had an incredibly high fire risk. Like it's not an accident that they stopped doing fire insurance this year, and it's well known that this problem was going to become a problem sooner rather than later. So, conspiracy land or not, they just were acting in their own best interest.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that the insurance companies didn't have a right to pull out. Like it's a free market. You can be wherever you want. But if you also think about this wildfire, how many structures have burned? Like a couple thousand or something?
Like over 40,000, I believe.
Over 40,000? Still. But if you look at that compared to the total housing supply in Los Angeles, if you had everyone in LA paying into fire insurance, we're talking about a very small percentage of houses being burned in this wildfire. I'm sure under 1%. So
Yeah, it was 40,000 acres burned, 12,000 structures destroyed.
okay. So to put that into perspective, it's a pretty small percentage of the houses in California.
Specifically, though, most of it, like the 23,000 plus acres, are right here in the Palisades, just above Santa Monica, like the heart of the most expensive places in California. Super, super rich people houses got fried in the Palisades fires.
Yeah, so to put that current one in perspective, that is less than 1% of LA housing supply. So still, I mean, understand, sure, some more expensive homes, I'm sure if those have to get rebuilt, that's just going to be a bunch of money out of this state slush fund, basically, the state slush fund of fire insurance. And now we're going to give it to a bunch of our crooked contractors who earn ridiculous amounts of money and then subcontract all of the work and don't even do anything. So it's all a big corrupt system out there. They're going to make sure they make money off this wildfire. You can be sure of it.
Yeah. That's one thing I do believe that for a fact.
So do you guys think that this fire was started by arson?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that over 95% of fires in California are started by a person, at least, whether it's intentional arson or accidental arson. Like almost all the fires started in California are from either electric lines or people misdoing things.
Well, I know Dakota had mentioned like them being a tinderbox, but it's actually a little bit worse than that because I've heard they have very bad fire management practices out there that don't involve regularly clearing brush with brush fires. Because if brush fires happen quickly enough, they burn out before the big trees catch on fire because the big trees have thicker bark. So as long as you just allow these really small brush fires to burn out on a very regular basis, you're not going to get these huge structure life-causing fires. I think a lot of this stems from poor fire management. And in nature, it's just trees normally do pretty good.
Yep.
But also, if your house can't survive as well as a tree, I mean, it doesn't say a lot about your house construction. I mean, hell, build your houses a little more like Miami. Like Miami uses a ton of like terracotta and adobe mud faces, stone faces. Like you can build houses that are very fire resistant. And I know that style is also popular in LA. So if some of these mansions are built with more 2x4s and they're catching on fire like a tinderbox, then that's definitely just a poor design choice. You need to choose fire-resistant wall coverings in a state like this. And it's not complicated. I mean, like adobe is one of the oldest forms of building houses. It's been used for thousands of years by the Anasazi. So build a house that doesn't catch on fire that easy, and then you won't have to worry about fire insurance at all.
I'm not sure how realistic that is when there's 70 or 80 mile per hour winds. I think damn near anything's going to catch on fire when you.
I don't think so. When you have a house that's covered in clay and has terracotta tiles on the roof, there's not anything to burn. It's just all basically cement. So cement doesn't burn. It might crack a little bit, but it doesn't burn.
Some of these places looked crazy. They were red hot. I think
Okay.
I would have a
The
tough
car's
time
metal
surviving.
was like liquefied in some videos.
Yeah.
Well, you better put your car inside of your terracotta garage.
I guess so.
Definitely some intense heat, but I've heard definitely some conspiracy theories about this all too. Supposedly lasers from the sky and cars being melted that shouldn't be melted. I seem to hear this a lot of connections to the Hawaii fires, but this one just does not feel much like the Hawaii. As far as like, or the Hawaii ones, I definitely feel like could have been maybe started by lasers. But these fires, there are so many homeless and arsonists and stuff in California, and graffiti and broken glass. Like I'm not buying any laser conspiracy for this fire. Like I think just somebody started it, and maybe not even somebody started, but maybe multiple people started it, because there's always people doing such stupid shit that when the conditions are right, and I've heard this has been one of the driest winters on record. When it gets dry enough, it's not if there's going to be a fire; it's when and where there's going to be a fire. It's all guaranteed. And they made the conditions worse by poor brush management with the DEI lesbian fire department. I guess painting fire hydrants rainbows. Maybe that was one of their higher priorities. Maybe that was a bigger budget item.
Hiring other lesbians.
Not checking to see if they work.
Yeah. How exactly? Who should get punished for that? Because I feel like here in Ohio, I saw fire hydrant checks where they
I
go
have.
and check the fire
Absolutely.
hydrant.
I would say the top 3 have to be fired. That's a guarantee. It's not even up for debate at that point. Top 3, fire them, and the head of the maintenance department, fire them too.
Yep.
Gone.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone needs to be fired for this. This is such a big disaster. Everyone needs to be fired. Yeah, everyone needs to be fired for this.
He needs a fire department still, but maybe bring back the few hundred people that they fired for not getting their vaccines back in the day.
Absolutely.
Those people maybe would have run this ship a little bit tighter than the lesbians who have let the Palisades burn to the ground because they literally have no water in their fire hydrants. I bet that this would have been fairly fightable if you had big ass fire hoses.
I guess we'll see the true intentions of this fire is then maybe a little bit later on what's done with the space of this fire, like, you know what I mean, of the land. We'll see what what's attempted to be done with it.
Yeah. Instead of having hoses, we had firefighters that were running with handbags full of water.
This is an insane clip.
The handbags seen in local reports are actually canvas bags. Firefighters bring on their engines for various jobs. When tackling small fires, it's easy to quickly fill the bags with water, and it's easier than to haul out the hose.
That is so inefficient.
It's
Really?
easier than getting out the hose and running over the fire and spraying it to fill up a bag. And then
My
run
hunch
the
is just that
bag.
their hose was not working.
Like
We can make fun of these firefighters for this, but they are probably doing the best that they can with the absolutely terrible working conditions they have.
It's just a pathetic attempt that this community is trying to justify
Are you
this.
gonna tell them like the pumps on their truck are broken and they can't like run their own hose? Is that what's going on, or they honestly think that this is the best decision? It probably works better for the catwalk.
I don't know what is happening in this clip, that like a dumpster is on fire or something.
A literal dumpster fire.
Yeah, there's just a dumpster fire. But these fires in no way should be considered small.
Yeah, that is a traffic. Yeah,
But like that
a
is
literal
just a
dumpster fire.
Why are there so
Totally
many cops
representative
running?
of California at the moment.
Yeah.
Fucking dumpster fire.
Well, I think the real, accurate representation was the single photo of fires raging in the background, and then just in the foreground was that rainbow unused fire hydrant. That spoke a lot. Absolutely terrible.
It's just you put bad people in charge, you get bad results.
And that's what we're seeing in the UK.
Absolutely.
Damn right.
Bad people in charge who won't give a straight answer about doing investigations on these grooming gangs. Like, oh, we have somebody looking into that. Like, be honest. What's going to happen? Like, what are the consequences you're looking for the perpetrators?
And they're denying it, apparently. Apparently in the UK, on TV channels, they're broadcasting a 3-part docu-series on how the supposed grooming gangs and mass rapes are made up, and they don't happen.
Really?
I guess so.
To gaslight the population. Don't pay attention to all the little white girls out there that are telling you that they're being raped, sometimes multiple times in one night. Eat up our propaganda.
Yeah, and it's really sad when the government is mad at you for. Yeah, it's just there's a clip I'd like to show again. It's relevant. It's rather short.
Adam, you had a story, didn't you, of a girl that literally got picked up by like a gang member and then raped and then dropped off and then before she made it home or something, got
Jesus.
raped again?
Yeah, it's a very tough story for sure.
Here's a quick clip.
So you have a problem with my words?
Yes.
Because a filthy migrant just spat on me.
Yeah, that is.
And you've got the issue with me.
We have a duty to challenge that language, yeah, because we're police officers and it's.
Because he's filthy and he's migrant and he attacked me like the other one.
We're trying to help you report
Which is
that,
offensive, isn't
but we can't not challenge that language because
There's
it
people
can
in the
be.
public-
Okay, what's your numbers? So you'll find my language offensive. 1483 3028.
I'm so happy to help you with your crime, but we have to
1192.
challenge you when you use language like that.
Especially when you're
Because it's
here in
the
the public as well, because obviously people walking past us.
I mean, that's fair.
they would
But
walk-
I think filthy migrants attacking English people is
Yeah,
disgusting,
but you're also swearing as well, madam.
and that's an issue.
Well, we-
Since when is swearing a
We
crime?
have to get spoken to you with respect too. Like,
And you're in public where there's people, kids
We're
not too
human
far
beings
away.
just doing our
She's being
job.
spat on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not interested in the PC lecture.
They are sticking up for the migrant.
The person who's walking around spitting on people.
Yeah. Of
They're worried about her language that she's using.
course they are.
Yeah.
Like the language of the senior, where they went to their house and the cops arresting the lady. It's like, what did I do? For what the comments you posted on Facebook? They're very hateful.
I saw that they arrested a pregnant woman, because recently her friend died, and she posted the lyrics to his favorite song, some rap song that happened to say the N-word a few times. And they arrested her, and like she had like 18 months of probation, something like ridiculous like that,
She
for posting a song, her dead friend's
lyrics.
song. Yeah, on Facebook. Like, cops will show up to your house for things you put on Facebook. And then there was I don't know how serious this is, but they were trying to threaten U.S. citizens that, hey, we will prosecute you for the things that you say. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I sent you guys a screenshot before of some random dude, Ivor Kaplan, and what he was saying. This is all real text that he sent. I went to his channel to verify.
Who is Ivor Kaplan? Can you just...
Yes. So I asked, well, first off, I went to his profile to verify that all these things are real. He is a him, former UK defense minister.
Oh my
That
god, he
is
has pronouns.
mostly what we need to know. And I asked Grok, and it said, Ivor Kaplan, he's not currently in public office, but he was a member of the parliament for Hove from 97 to 2005. Recent reports indicate that he was arrested on suspicion of engaging in sexual communication with a child following a sting operation by activists, and that he has been released on bail while further inquiries are conducted. Additionally, Kaplan was suspended from the Labour Party in June of 2024 due to serious allegations which were not made public. So he has a long history of being in the Labour Party in the UK.
And now tweets are surfacing that he made from his verified account.
Not surfacing. This is regular occurrence type shit from him. I went and scrolled through, and like this is all real.
Who is he talking to? Who are these sex dolls? Big 31.
Oh my god!
What the hell is this?
Disgusting.
He is tweeting at random like male porn stars.
Oh my
that
God.
happen to be around London, just telling them that he is looking for butt sex. Simply, hey, sexy, like you a lot. Are you in
In an
London?
extremely explicit
And
manner.
publicly, not a DM. These are just tweets.
For the world to see?
Yes.
Right.
For the world to see. Yep.
What an absolute degenerate.
While literally being under serious allegations of sexual communication with
So
a
I guess we
child.
can just
He's saying
assume
these
that
types of things in public. Not to mention that he'll repost straight up naked pictures of dudes, like butt ass naked.
just straight
I
porn to
I
Twitter.
will not show us any of those, but
Please don't.
recently I was scrolling through his page to try to get a sense of who this guy was, and this is a fight that he was taking to. It's time for action to protect vulnerable children. Today, the Labour Party, the same party that he's been a part of for a very long time, brings forward the single biggest piece of child protection legislation in a generation. The Tories are trying to block action to keep children safe. The Tories are the more conservative nationalist party in the UK. I think there's a lot of different parties in the UK. It's not quite just binary like here in the US. But the reality of the situation is that this bill, which is called the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill, is proposing to keep children that are homeschooled under an incredibly strict schedule. It would ban all home education other than fully structured and timetabled lessons, which means that you would have to like set up a camera so some sort of a monitor can check and see that you have timetables broken down and that the kid is reading the proper materials, shit like that. And if you don't follow their strict guidelines, their strict whatever,
What to
their
teach
strict,
your child?
yep, then they will force your child to go to school instead of being homeschooled.
But if you don't want your child to possibly be attacked or exposed to at a school, you have to put cameras in your house.
Or if you don't want your child to go to school and be subjected to libraries that are filled with gay pedophilia,
Literally.
literally.
And then they call you the book burner when you want to get that taken out of the library. You're not a Nazi apparently just by.
Now, where was this found posted again, please?
This
This
is
bill? This is a proposed bill, right?
it may have already been voted on. This was a hot topic from like January 6th through January 10th.
In where again? In the UK?
In the UK. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that it ended up getting voted down in like a really serious manner. I don't know if I have that anywhere, but the Labour
That sure
Party.
was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
But what do you think, Dakota, about the general situation of the attack on free speech that's going on in the UK? What do you think the citizens' reactions and relevant responses?
I think often what happens, and it seems like with the UK, is the UK is almost like the testing pot. If it can work there, it can work in the rest of the world. They run that super scary draconian shit there first.
They're Canada.
They are Canada, yeah. They just kind of work in tandem, don't they?
Well,
But
look at who's in charge of Canada.
man, it is super scary to see. I mean, just because it sets a precedent for the rest of the world. When these things happen, and especially in such a modern place like the UK, right, that is considered Western civilization like us, it's scary for over here.
Absolutely. And just the level of prison time you've been trying to seek for these supposed, hate speech crimes, which apparently in the UK, just calling out migrant sexual crime or crime in general seems to be some form of hate speech. You're basically, you can have our view on the topic or you can commit hate speech. So do you want to praise what we're doing or do you want to go to jail? Or do you want to shut up about it and not say anything at all? Like your choices are agree, shut up, or jail. And that is just so far into the direction of some type of totalitarian form of government.
Literally
It's
is.
nothing to do with a democracy.
Where they
or
don't even want you
public.
speaking about the things you see.
Yeah,
And
you
the prison
can't-
system doesn't make any
Don't
sense.
think about the things that you see.
I've heard something over there called day release, which isn't something I knew existed, but for even low-level criminals who have violent offenses can be on a
High-level
program called day release. You go out in the world and you can just be free to roam, and what often happens is they go and stab other people and continue to do crimes on day release.
And who exactly monitors what they did during the day? Probably
They
not much.
on the hopes of CCTV will do the monitoring, I guess.
Jeez.
So just don't
Day release. They
so
let
if wear a
stabbers and
mask, then
rapists
you just
out
do
on
whatever
day
you-
release.
Wow.
It's a normal occurrence there. So you can be amongst literally people who are serving time.
That doesn't really seem like serving time.
No,
No.
no, it
Seems
doesn't.
like a shitty
Day
probation,
release.
but from prison.
It's something I had to reread a few times just because it didn't seem real.
Sounds more like house arrest. I suppose you just sleep at the jail.
Right, but people are out in the world still committing crimes.
Yeah.
And then it takes citizens with like mattresses or something hilarious to stop them. Like that's
The
what it
cops-
takes there.
The cops don't have guns.
No. Or they'll call you a racist if you call them to show up, apparently. So people won't even call the cops. It just takes citizens to do it.
Yeah, I was so amazed when I heard that some cops in Europe have like mattresses in their cars, and if somebody has like a knife, God forbid, you have to start trying to get enough people with mattresses to try to pin them down and try to cover them with enough mattresses to not get stabbed.
I just think that just shows like, man,
Roll
so
them up,
obviously
You're
forfeiting the
joking,
guns
right?
didn't work.
huh?
You're joking, right?
No, I'm serious.
No, mattresses are widely
Used by
used
cops,
to
yeah.
stop and quell knife crime. Yep.
They literally do not allow their police to carry weapons.
No. Their SWAT has weapons. And
Yeah,
the
SWAT
gets
and
there fast
ESU
enough,
does, yeah.
But yeah, the cops no guns.
But that's not
So
a mass amount
there
of people.
there
That's like
is no
multiple people.
law enforcement.
Huh?
Anybody can run around and do whatever they want. There is no law enforcement.
You might face a
Nobody can enforce
baton,
the laws.
but I would swing on someone with a baton.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It really goes to show you that, like, hey, forfeiting your guns
Doesn't
doesn't work out well. It does not.
And also in the UK, it's very obvious they don't want you to defend yourself, because pepper spray is illegal. A taser is illegal. Like you're not allowed to have non-lethal options to defend yourself from the knife crime. Oh, carrying a pocket knife is like illegal. Carrying a real knife, a kitchen knife, is illegal. But the migrants can walk around with machetes and apparently get left alone a lot. But God forbid you have a pocket knife or mace or anything to defend yourself with.
People are being raped and stabbed on the street in mass, and they're actually going over after people over Facebook posts. They're scouring the internet for offensive things, and people are being stabbed and raped in mass in rape gangs, which is wild thing to hear. Maybe it wouldn't be a wild thing to hear, but in the UK, in one of the oldest modern cities in the world, which is once considered like the capitalist, most metropolitan place. I wouldn't be long ago, but at one point in time, look how far it's fallen.
I saw a video of a woman walking through like a popular UK outdoor mall on her way home to work, and in her like 10-minute walk home, she got approached by like 15 guys, and these guys coming up. You can ask me if they're Indian, but they come up to her and just start like, "Oh hey, why is no man with you? Like let me take care of you. Like you're coming home with me," and start
being intimidating, approaching her immediately,
intimidating her, saying sexual things towards her, following
being
her,
provocative,
getting in front of her, making her walk around them, like just really putting their hands on it, like
intimidating,
putting their hands on her shoulder and
uneasy
stuff
stuff.
like that. Like just like the stuff like if you just stop walking, you're gonna get raped. Like you just have to like keep like walking and brushing your way past all these men coming up, trying to do God knows what to.
And then even on the other side, I saw a video of a worker in the streets taking down British flags, letting them fall and drop to the street and replacing them with the pride flag in their country. And then local people are walking by saying, "You're taking down the wrong flag." And the worker says, "I know, it's my job." Because he knows in his heart, I can quit and not get paid, but they're just going to replace me. And I need to get paid. I need to go home. But here I am literally taking down my country's mother flag and letting it drop to the street and replacing it with a pride flag.
Union Jack, just throwing it on the ground. Boy, the Rolling Stones would be rolling over in their grave. No, the Jackers.
I just don't think, no country should ever replace his flag. Like, what? Yeah, man.
Well, what type of music?
Sexuality.
What type of music do they listen to now in the UK? I'm sure it's nothing like the British invasion. Just a bunch of modern rap, pop garbage. I looked up like a list of like popular new Christmas songs, and like half the albums had like scantily clad women in them, sexualized women in them. Like, these are your Christmas albums, and you're pushing sex and debauchery. It's just.
That's what sells. I mean, that's just the music industry in a whole, I guess.
Well, you don't watch what you're listening to typically outside of YouTube or something.
No, but it's what sells. It's just the salaciousness of it. It's what's talked about often. It's what every female rapper will talk about in totality is just sex and sexuality. Any female rap song, that's just guaranteed.
I think it's a lot of male rap songs.
Sure, I know.
There's some
I know.
negative content.
There can be other variations, but I'm just letting you know, exclusively a female rapper will only talk about sex.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll?
No, a female rapper. I'm saying a female rapper, but yeah.
I think that throw a little drugs and partying in there too. It's like the general rap just became the more egregious type of rock and roll.
Yes, for sure.
It's kind of like rap is just like the theme song for doing debauchery things and going out and sinning.
Right, I'm just letting you know, there are those one or two few of those who consider themselves conscious rappers who will talk against those things. I'm just saying you won't find those things in the female rap sphere. It will only be those just twerking girls.
Rappers had other things, so you can't say 100%.
They twerk, they talk about their own pussy and sex life. That's it. They do. That's all they talk about. And anyone who listens to rap and knows any female rapper knows I'm right.
There's definitely many that do that. I don't know if they all do that. There are a lot.
Well, if you find one that doesn't, show it to me.
Definitely some issues with the culture. Like you put on Netflix and have the banner going by, and there's stuff there that you wouldn't even want your kids to see. And this is just like the recommended watches. Like all of a sudden there's, here's Satan. It's just showing up on my feed because, apparently Lucifer's a show that Netflix is pushing.
Here's a bunch of gays, or here's a bunch of kids committing suicide. A whole show about that. That drove kids to commit more suicide. Who would have thunk?
13 Reasons Why.
And then there's, here another show popped up on my feed. Here's a man with a dead body under plastic wrap who's like, a serial killer. We have Dexter. Let's just push another show that's about cutting people up and being basically a serial killer. And it's just more the same.
I think Dexter was a good show.
But is it the type of show society needs and need to have mentally unstable people watching who might just do whatever they see and be schizophrenic and not be able to tell reality from their imagination? Is that really what we should be showing these people?
I would say that it's a bit of a health epidemic that we have so many schizophrenic people that are willing to go kill people.
If you had ignorant schizophrenic people, how many of them would be trying to kill people? Probably not very many. How many people would try to commit suicide if they didn't know that suicide was real? If you just lived in a culture where that was completely taboo and never talked about, never on TV, never in books.
True, but we're past that point. They definitely know.
We're not past that in the sense that it can't move back into that direction. I mean, mental health can be talked about without talking about suicide.
Right, but trying to take those things out of popular culture with a phone in everyone's pocket is virtually impossible.
But why do you have to have a show about one of the girls wanting to commit suicide and that being one of the main subplots?
No, true. And when the shows like that is pushed towards children, I absolutely have a problem with that. But again, this kind of stems to a larger problem of like the home. Why are you allowed to watch this in the first place? Parents not being more. I don't know. It stems from other problems than just canceling a show.
Yeah.
I'm not saying canceling a show, but just how shows are written in general, that they could just not push topics that are so literally suicidal for humanity.
Yeah, but it just goes back down to the mental health issue. It's a mental health issue. People do not know how to dissociate media from reality. That's just been proven in the last 20 years.
Well, TV kind of tricks your brain because there's so much moving stuff and there's eye contact, and the TVs really trick your brain into kind of thinking they're real. that's kind of what makes TV a more addicting. TV and social media makes it a more addicting form of content than books or music. It kind of is a mind hack.
And that's why I think you should spend the vast majority of your childhood without it. And if you're a weak parent who doesn't stick a tablet in your kid's face, it's not that hard to do.
Yeah. But
So,
you know what you can't cure by keeping a tablet out of your kid's face? Having an 11-year-old get abused by 150 plus people over the course of 20 years and never having their case settled until like literally 20 years later, and then the judge demanding that the survivor remove their demands for deportation. That's the state that they're at. I bet that never putting a tablet in that 11-year-old's face when she got taken in by this gang to be groomed wouldn't have done a damn thing for her.
No, that's absolutely horrible what happened. I don't know what kind of system allows these things to happen, or especially go unpunished for it like that.
Well, you know who will get punished. I've heard some fathers have been getting arrested for going and trying to get their 13-year-old daughters out of these sex houses where they got basically kidnapped, drugged into, whatever.
The fathers got arrested while trying to save their daughter?
Yes. If you can't just go into a house and get your daughter who's been kidnapped, that's obviously like breaking and entering and assault.
Vigilantism or whatever.
Yeah, you can't take the law into your own hands. That's always forbidden.
Yeah. Disregard that somebody broke the law by kidnapping my daughter. I better not go and try to get her back if I trespass into a migrant's house. Oh no.
Because even if you call the cop and they go over there to talk to your daughter, like she's gonna be drugged up in some room, and they're gonna walk up and all the migrants are gonna be like, oh no, she's happy here, like everything's okay. And then they say to the girl, oh, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, I'm here.
The police walk in carrying their mattresses, push back everybody, get out of here.
No, if they felt like they need mattresses, they just wouldn't go in the house at all. That would be the UK's police's move. Just ignore it. This one's too much of a hassle. Unless we have her calling for help on 911, she will not be helped. Good luck.
I just want to know what percentage is happy with the influx of refugees that is changing the fucking shape of the culture so much. Like, I know there is a small, maybe I don't know exactly the percentages, but I know there is a subsect of people there that are happy and are thinking that this diversity and this mass importation is good, and that Europe was too white before, and that Bill Maher motherfucker who said he used to be disappointed going to Europe because it was all white, and now he's so happy, and it's not such a negative to certain people.
I want to give credit to at least one good person in the UK government. I'll play this little clip out loud because there's at least one dude that understands what the people must be feeling.
How many of these documents have been hidden due to the cost of release? This should not be an obstacle to transparency on these trials. Will lifelong sentences now be considered for those British citizens involved in the crimes, but also those in positions of power who acted to cover up the scale of the abuse? Which politicians, local and national, had knowledge of these events but failed to act? Again, going as far as to actively conceal what was truly happening. These are the facts that the British people want to know and the British people deserve to know. All of these questions have also been submitted in written form, and I look forward to receiving open and transparent answers.
So he was just asking some real basic questions. The whole time while he was doing it in this video, the people around him demonstrated that they were very uncomfortable. Like, how dare this man ask questions about how many migrants are in our cities, about how many people have been literally raped in our cities.
Like literally specifics.
Yeah,
Let's get down to
he
the
was
brass
asking
tacks.
very specific, important questions that somebody should be finding the answer to.
And
All the rest of these politicians around him were squirming, looking at him like, how dare you, you racist piece of shit. You even bother bringing this up?
Right.
Who do you think
can't
you
bring
are?
this uncomfortable conversation into our just and professional environment. And that thing's just British culture as a whole. Is they're so worried about maintaining some like illusion of class and and I don't know, or an acceptance now too. But like, at what cost, right?
Yeah, at what
Like,
cost?
at what cost?
And
Jesus.
how many of these people that are giving him the funny eye are involved? I just don't understand how they could be so uppity and pompous, turning their nose up at somebody to ask real questions like that, unless if they're fucking part of it, unless if
Yeah.
they're helping to cover it up,
And like,
because
in my
they're
mind, these are
scared
the
they're gonna
people.
end up in jail.
These are people who don't walk the streets of London. These are people who don't, you know what I mean? Like, they don't live that life on they're above it all. During the COVID lockdowns, they were partying on, you know what I mean? Like, they were caught over there doing that shit. So they passed laws. It's how is it? Laws for the, not for we. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, and that's what they want to talk about it. It's so awkward because they know it's true, right? They would refute it and call him a liar, or if it wasn't, right? But they didn't. They had to just sit there and quiet because it's true. And they know a lot of people are fucking mad about it.
Yeah.
And they should be. Like,
yeah, they
fucking
really should be.
And it's sad that they're probably not more mad about it. And there's not getting enough news over here. Just like, let's quickly switch topics to over 100,000 people protesting in Romania right now because there was an election and Calin Georgescu was elected. He won. And the Romanian constitutional courts annuls the presidential election and orders the process to be completely rerun.
They
Of course,
annulled the second. There's like two parts to their election. And yeah, that dude won the first part, like hands down,
yes,
slap
in a
everybody across
landslide.
the face, like get
He
fucking
won in
out
a
of here,
landslide.
I'm the winner. And it's
And
that second part.
of course, this was a guy who was striving for reconciliation with Russia. So, you know, so much for any semblance of democracy there.
Russia bad.
Yeah, Russia bad.
I
Break
think
democracy because Russia bad.
And they were claiming Russia interference with elections, which, hey, haven't heard that before. Which
Never.
can later come out to be false
really.
here in the U.S.
You mean like? Oh, I thought you meant when they went to doors with guns and had votes done. You know.
Yeah.
But I would
That's
really.
totally what they did in Romania. Definitely.
I was talking about parts of Ukraine, but hopefully that's not going on in Romania.
No. In Romania, in Ukraine, they're just not having elections. They just have a dictator now named Zelensky.
No, that's actually not true.
They didn't have an election.
Their
They
constitution
did not have elections. Elections are still on pause.
That's right.
Their constitution does not allow elections during martial law.
Yeah. Huh. Oh, they just have a dictator.
Perfect.
No, that's how the Constitution works. That's the whole point of being a constitutional republic is that you follow the Constitution.
They're not a republic. They're a single state.
No, I believe that they're a republic because they have elected leaders. So yeah, they're a republic. Just like America's a republic. They love to call America a democracy now, but that's actually kind of a false flag attack against it because a democracy kind of creates a rule by the mob. And the founding fathers did not want rule by mob. They wanted a republic. So that's why they founded America as a constitutional republic. And
America is a republic because each state is its own state. We are the United States. Each state makes up the republic. Ukraine is Ukraine.
No, we're also a republic because we have elected officials that do things on our behalf. That's also part of what makes us a republic. A direct democracy or something that doesn't even necessarily have leaders like that. So we are a republic, and it definitely should be honored and follow the Constitution to keep the bad things that citizens tend to do to each other.
Either way, the people of Romania voted, and the government is trying to stop it.
The government was also trying to organize one of the largest NATO bases in all of Europe. Not one of the largest, the largest NATO base.
In Romania.
Yeah. And the guy that was elected was not going to do that. He was an ultra-nationalist. He was going to put Romanian interests above all other interests. He wasn't just a Putin apologist, as the people who canceled the election would say. No, he was for Romania.
Sad to see.
Sad to see. Hopefully it'll get figured out in some way, shape, or form.
hopefully these protests or something will become of it. But I know it's just those parts of the world are still kind of corrupt.
Kind of.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
What are the odds that this thing that's happening in Romania is somehow controlled by a different state? What odds do you put it at, Dakota?
I mean, I think this is completely under the guise of at least EU, the people in charge, the people in parliament there. Romania needs to remain an ally of NATO. I mean, this is obviously just going to be a good foothold, backdoor entrance into Russia, just to keep a good foothold there in case of war, which they're definitely escalating towards. And again, I mean, Russia and Iran are always just the scapegoats. Lately, I feel like whatever is going to happen, if there's going to be some kind of false flag attack, it's Iran. The Iran's been wanting to have. It's Iran. They're the bad guys. Iran's been wanting to have war, but they don't. Iran doesn't want to have war with us, and I feel like neither does Russia. But that's the narrative they keep wanting to push. And we'll keep sending fucking weapons to Ukraine. And we'll keep trying to put military installations in Romania and fucking with their elections when they try to stop that. So ultimately, I'm going to blame it on NATO, us, and the EU.
Adam, what percentage chance do you give it that the blocking of the Romanian election was because of some other state actor?
I haven't looked into the details of that one much, so I can't give a comment on that.
All right, fair enough. I'm very much so on Dakota's side here. I think that there's no way in hell that this is all bubbling up out of Romania. I think that Romania made it very clear what they wanted, and that it's the United Nations or the EU, or maybe even the fucking Pentagon, the CIA, the Mossad, the international crime syndicate that operates through the intelligence agencies. I don't know, but it is not the will of the Romanian people.
I mean, previously the Romanian people have been allied more with NATO in the West. I mean, generally that's a lot better financial outcomes than being aligned with Russia. Russia's pretty close to a failed state when it comes to their current minimum wage is the equivalent of $1.62 an hour. And you can say that you're for against having minimum wages, and I get that. But the fact that that is the minimum wage means there has to be some people making that. So when you have people living in a country making $1.62 an hour, that's so close to like Zimbabwe or something that like I can't even take your government serious in the slightest when people are making $1.62 an hour. You're a failed state.
Would I rather make $1.62 an hour, or know that anytime that my daughter goes out on the streets, she needs to have a man with her, otherwise chances are she's probably going to get picked up by a rape gang? One of those sounds a lot more like a failed state than the other to me. Ruh-roh.
About at least your daughter being safe? Or were you saying something like that?
Yeah. I was. I said that Russia sounds a lot less like a failed state than the UK to me.
I'm not back.
If one country or the other were trying to have control over me, I don't think that I would choose to go in the direction that the European Union is going.
All right. Jesus, sorry about that. Do we have Adam?
Yeah, I'm currently here as well. Apparently we don't have.
We can hear him at least.
Okay, we can't see him.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But we can still talk to each other. So what were you saying, Levi?
I was saying that between Russia and the UK, the UK seems an awful lot more like a failed society than Russia.
Well, I mean, I think that kind of what goes against that is that Russia is currently a place where they're smuggling in washers and dryers on the back of civilian cars because you can't go and just import a washer and a dryer. So if you're smuggling in appliances into your country, you are definitely a lot closer to a failed state than somebody like London. Because like somewhere like London, if you're like rich and send your kids to private school and take care of yourself, you can live a just fine normal life. And Russia's exactly the same. The rich people in Russia are still living great lives when there aren't bombs from Ukraine falling on the neighborhood, which has happened. But beyond the occasional bombing, life seems pretty functional in both places if you have money. And if you don't have money, your life's probably shit in both the countries as well. So it's just that Russia currently has a part of its territory being occupied by a foreign country, which is kind of the definition of, I guess, like losing your country in a war. I mean, it's not winning, I guess, if you're losing territory, but
they're dropping leaflets on Ukrainians on how to surrender.
So it's definitely a fluid situation.
Yeah. Seems like a stretch to me.
What, you think you could just be in Russia and just import anything you want, like washers and dryers and things, complicated electronics, a new Dell computer, you're just going to buy it? It doesn't work that way. They're sanctioned. The UK is not sanctioned. You can just buy whatever you want in the UK. You can walk down to the Apple store and buy an iPhone. You don't do that in Russia.
The country that's being placed massive sanctions on by the West, which
For
is
invading another sovereign country, yes, that's the reasonable response.
And the West has governments that refuse to prosecute transnational criminals, but will throw you in jail for saying something mean about the transnational criminals.
I mean, Russia's also a place that had a private military that the left at least claimed committed war crimes all over the world. So I mean, there's definitely some weird stuff going on in Russia too. I mean, also in Russia, like the rates of alcoholism are just horrible. Like they're genuinely
what he always brings up.
Because it's true, when you have a country that's literally filled with alcoholics and it's so prevalent in rural areas, it's really sad. Like they literally wouldn't raise, they don't want to raise the taxes too much on liquor because they want people to be able to afford it. And it's a whole, they also like make money off of the liquor taxes. So that's why they never want to, make it harder to get for the people ruining their own lives. It's sad. I mean, it's a big cold country in the winter. Like the winter sucks. Like Russia's not necessarily that great of a place to live if you're not like really far south.
We are now in the section where Adam trashes Russia.
Yep.
It's just the truth. Like I wouldn't want to live in a sanctioned country where I can't buy appliances. That sounds horrible.
So in all of Russia, I can't buy appliances.
I'm sure
I
there'll
cannot.
be a few local ones, but not like the regular Samsung and nice washers and dryers and shit. No.
Okay.
Maybe you'll find some Chinese models.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you getting this information?
People who actually pay attention to it. You're not aware of the issue.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't aware I couldn't buy washers and dryers in Russia. All right.
People who actually pay attention to it. Great.
Start these little trades of like smuggling stuff over the border. Like you go over the border and try to buy some stuff in Europe or buy some stuff in China that's not allowed to be technically imported into Russia, and then you just carry it in your minivan and sell it on the other side of the border for a markup. It's not a very well functioning country.
I just can't believe that you think that makes something a failed state more so than the person who got literally raped by a gang member possibly getting a longer jail sentence for saying mean things than the person that raped them.
I mean, there's really bad neighborhoods in America too where you can probably get raped if you just walk down the street.
You can buy LG washers and dryers in Russia. LG has an official website for Russia.
Wow. What a
I
surprise.
cleared that up.
That definitely sounds like they'd be running into some secondary sanctions there.
Oh no. Nobody sells anything in Russia anymore. I'm pretty sure McDonald's just like slightly altered their name or their sign or something, and that they completely still operate in Russia.
Yeah,
I
same
don't
with
think that
KFC
most
did the
of
same thing
sanctions
too.
have been abided by in any way, shape, or form. And the
Also,
fact
where are you
that you're
getting-
defending the West for sanctioning the reason that you think that they're broken is because the West sanctioned them. When the West is the one that's spreading these terrible ideologies that end in people getting gang raped. and not being able to punish the gangs that are raping people.
Adam, do you believe Russia's meddling with the elections in Romania?
Levi already asked me that question. I haven't looked into it.
I'm asking you, do you believe Russia's doing it?
I haven't looked into it. Why would I have an opinion on the matter?
Okay.
I don't just say random shit that I have absolutely no information on. So I know that Russia tries to have influence in Eastern Europe and former Soviet bloc. So I'm sure they have a candidate who they prefer. I'm not saying that he's a Russian puppet because I haven't looked into it.
Well, you said you couldn't buy LG washers there, and you
I
can.
don't know where you got your information from, but it's.
I just asked Meta, and you can buy an LG washer, and there's showing me the Russian fucking links to fucking LG.
I think you have some outdated information. As of January 2025, LG Electronics has suspended all shipments to Russia, including home appliances like dryers.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I'm sure that there's no very easy workaround by buying it from a Chinese distributor that holds LG washers and dryers. But I know that you do have some good information on folic acid. Maybe we can get your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just before we leave the Europe topic, I really would like to kind of go over. We're throwing shade on what's going on there, but you're just leaving that topic totally not closed off. You're trying to blame like NATO and the West for these rapes in Europe, but these are not a NATO fault thing. This is just electing dumb, sensitive liberals who believe that arresting migrants is hateful. Like we don't have these problems in America. In America, you can go to.
Yes, we do have these problems in America.
We don't have the problems in America of going to police stations and just having rape accusations ignored. They'll arrest a guy in 24 hours with no evidence. Like
we have problems in America of somebody setting somebody on fire and being ignored. Police officers walking right past the dude who literally just set somebody on fire. So there's probably some rapes going on too.
I mean, I hear about, in general, the bigger the city, but still you get into the same thing with the big leftist cities, is that you have far left people who care more about not offending liberals and migrants and blacks than actually enforcing crime and locking people up for adequate times. They say cash bail is racist, so they want to get rid of cash bail, even though it makes it so that like somebody has to trust you and lend you money and put up their car or house to get you out of jail. It's a pretty good way of keeping the bad people in jail because nobody trusts them.
Is that happening more in Western societies or Eastern societies?
No, it's happening in like more of urban areas versus rural areas. That's just
Can you point me to an Eastern society that has huge leftist cities that have massive gang rape problems?
They have other problems, but I mean, I think that the rape definitely depends a lot upon the culture, and I don't think that's entirely about government.
The countries these people are leaving have a stricter punishment for rape than the countries they're entering. It's really quite sad.
And regardless, it seems to be kind of an urban versus like suburban and rural thing, because I've never heard about big rape problems in suburban areas or in rural areas, only in urban areas.
But I don't think that you've heard about one in an Eastern society either.
I mean,
Even
they have a lot more
city.
like shame-based societies and stuff like China and stuff like that. So like shame in your family honor is a big deal over there. So you're a little more cautious of your actions. Around here, family doesn't mean anything. Your last name means zilch. So you have completely different cultures. I think that transcends government.
Well, I think that there was a push to make it so that the Overton window was shifted over the last, call it 70 years, or since the first two world wars, most likely, to make sure that the left was going to be able to take control of Western societies. And they
But
did
you
a
can't
pretty
just
good
blame
job.
the Western society. Like if you look at like rural America, a small town in America, I don't see how the left is negatively affecting a small town in America pretty much at all. Like the federal government just doesn't weigh in on a rural, small American town. You have city police, you have city water, you have city everything, city sewage.
That was not my question or my point.
But the point is you can't just say that like the NATO is this evil force when people can live in NATO and live perfectly happy lives and have pretty good relationships with their government.
I can when it ends up in clown worlds like what
How do you know
the
it
UK
ends
is.
up in this? It's just really people get what they vote for, but then those societies are going to have less birth rates and less people are going to live there, and the small towns that are healthy are going to grow relative to the cities. I think it's just NATO is just a good environment for letting people govern themselves. And when you have bad people in charge and bad citizens, you have bad results. But when you have good citizens, good people in charge, you get good results. It's just, I think it's a
United
good
Nations,
ecosystem.
the United Nations had a large hand in making sure that voting machines were in all of these Western societies, and I think that that's been a way that a lot of Western societies have been slowly subverted,
Yeah, well,
amongst
in a
other
small
communist
city
factors.
election, you choose your own voting machine. So you can't just you don't have you can do paper ballots. It's up to the small city. They can govern themselves however they want. So you can't say that some hacked voting machines are going to take over a small town. It's up to the people.
I can say that because there were two office administration people. I don't know their titles. I could find it in New York that made the choice against the will of both of these foundations, like the groups of people that were designed for the protection of election integrity. Um, Made the choice to buy Dominion machines. The people were like, "No, we can't afford it, and they suck." Like, fuck you, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah, I've never heard of any county or state having jurisdiction pretty much at all over a city election. So I don't believe you.
It's an entire county in New York.
So a county bought voting machines, not a city.
Yeah,
Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about a city election, not a county.
I'm saying that there's forces that are subverting the West. They're sanctioning the East, and you seem to be on the side of the whole world ending up this way.
No, I'm the fan of people having their own right to vote on who they want to choose and have free and fair elections. And I think that
Like in
small towns,
Romania.
huh?
Like in Romania.
I told you I can't comment on that. But like I see what I see in small towns in America is that they don't have corrupt elections. So I think we have a very functioning system because, like I said, the federal government doesn't really. That's why I think the federal government's afraid of shutting itself down because people notice that they don't need it. Like, why do we need?
Do you believe Joe Biden got 81 million votes? Do you genuinely believe that?
No.
Okay.
That number definitely seems too high.
Cool.
But that doesn't have to have anything to do with a small city. I'm sure that fraud was committed in bigger cities.
Maybe we should move on to our third topic because it's an extremely wide, broad-ranging topic. I don't even know how we ended up on fucking voting machines.
Well, I did just want to read a paragraph though first about who might have been in charge of this.
Of what?
And
What are we
this is-
talking about?
Of Europe going down.
Okay, all right. We were talking about voting machines 5 minutes ago.
The immigration.
Oh,
Levi's
okay.
the one who brought up the voting machines.
Okay.
So this was written by the Open Society Foundation. So this is George Soros. I know people love to have conspiracy theories about George Soros, but I'm not going to repeat a conspiracy theory. I'm going to read off his own website and let you make of it what you want to make of it. The European Union. This was about the migrant crisis from the Middle East to Europe.
When was this released? The statement.
This is a pretty old statement. I think this is probably like over 5 years old.
Okay.
The European Union was conceived as an instrument of solidarity and cooperation. The plight of asylum seekers today exposes how these values are being eroded. By failing to help the refugees, this political union that I believe to be the embodiment of an open society is failing before our very eyes. The lack of a unified European policy towards asylum and migration has allowed member states to act selfishly and irresponsibly. Frontline countries like Greece and Italy are neglecting to provide adequate reception and asylum processing, while others like Hungary are sealing their borders to keep out those in need. So this is the opinion of George Soros, and what he wants pushed on Europe is we see a few clear things here. He doesn't believe countries should be able to seal their borders, number one. He believes that frontline countries like Greece and Italy need to provide adequate reception to everyone who shows up. So if you're turning away one person, you are not providing adequate reception and asylum processing. So, and also that stuff about embodiment of an open society. So they're saying that, so first of all, I've heard a great experiment is as a body, if it had no skin, it wouldn't be a body. Like you need something to contain yourself in order to be something. If you're a country with no borders, you're not a country. You're just like a location. But there definitely seems to be a push. If you want to associate George Soros with the New World Government, that's your own business. I'm not saying I have any evidence of that, but it is a very large, wealthy Jewish person who seems to have agendas about how they want Europe to handle their immigration policy, even though he's an American citizen. A little weird that he has so much opinions on how Europe should handle its borders. But this seems to be the view of some very wealthy, very powerful, very big Democrat donors.
Seems to
I
be
wonder
the
what he thinks
view
about
of
Israel's borders.
almost everybody that is in the United Nations. The United Nations is the overarching structure above like the World Economic Forum, which is what people would be a lot more familiar with. Yeah, they are all lobbying and shoving money down politicians' throats to make sure the open society type values are pushed.
Absolutely. Can you get on that text I sent you, Levi? And kind of switching into the folic acid. So, well, first of all, I just wanted, switching into the folic acid, there's this ingredient that's been added to enriched bread. So they like to make it sound healthy, like they call it fortified and enriched. So you see enriched wheat flour, enriched white flour. And in 1993, the truth of the matter is that a scientific study came out claiming that pregnant women could benefit from having more folate. So they're like, okay, we'll create this synthetic version of folate called folic acid, and we're going to say that that's beneficial for women because folate helps prevent these this tube defect that's incredibly rare. So basically, the only people who really need more of this thing called folic acid is pregnant women. So instead of making like a vitamin for pregnant women, we're going to make a law that you have to add it to your entire grain supply, this synthetic chemical. And then, of course, it's kind of curious, but the companies that manufactured this chemical lobbied politicians to take up the science and create this mandate around 1993. Also around 1993, rates of things like ADHD, autism, neurological conditions, they kind of went off the cliff in the bad side. So what do you guys feel about the fact that a synthetic chemical is being added to your food? And also, here's the kicker. There's a thing called an MTHFR gene. There's a bad term that some people call that, relating a mother. But 40 to 60% of people have this genetic condition that makes it very difficult to break down folic acid, which means it can build up to toxic levels in your blood and cells. And yet, it could be toxic to 40 to 60% of people, but by law, it has to be added to our grain supply.
This is just kind of a representation of what you said.
So, kind of, what's your initial take on that, Dakota?
That was a lot.
That was a lot. I don't know. I always thought it was cool that our food was enriched, but
yeah, I thought it was
when you
good too.
learn
I was
that
always
the
happy about eating it. It made me feel good.
yeah, when you learn that the enrichment process could be mildly toxic to 40% of the population, then that's a little less cool. Kind of makes me feel sort of the same way I did about fluoride, because I used to argue for fluoride being in the water. I was like, if it prevents people from having tooth decay, then why is that a bad thing? But when you see that that doesn't even really work because you're drinking the water rather than just like putting it on your teeth.
Well, if you want to learn more about this topic, listen to Brecca on Joe Rogan. Definitely recommend it. It's like 2 hours long, totally worth it. But one of the things he mentioned is that he says there's studies that show that the higher the levels of fluoride are in the water, basically like the lower the IQ is. It's like a direct correlation. Like you add more fluoride and people get more stupid. So also they mentioned that the fluoride, I never heard this part before, but apparently fluoride, the type that they give us is like a waste product of making fertilizer. And they have to take it out of the fertilizer because it makes seeds not germinate as well. So there's just this toxic stuff that like kills plants, and they didn't know what to do with it. So they decided to mandate it that it be added to water because some studies showed that fluoride can reduce tooth decay. So instead of putting it in your toothpaste, which they do, in your mouthwash, which they do, let's just add it to all of your water so that you inadvertently have to swallow it. And it inadvertently gets put in everything that's ever cooked for you, like pasta and anything that absorbs the water, like rice.
Wonderful. And that pasta and rice is almost definitely enriched with folic acid.
Yeah. which I've also heard this folic acid compared to like crack cocaine. So apparently, some kids who can't digest this right, you're giving them a bunch of sugar and folic acid, which they can't break down, which interacts with their folate receptors. You only have so much enzymes that can break down folate, which is really important for you. It's the most abundant nutrient there is. It's involved in like your neurological system and other important bodily functions. So this folic acid can just be eating up most of your enzymes meant for real folate and giving you terrible results. And if you want an easy way to kind of get around it is you can take a methylfolate vitamin. That's got the folate already broken down so that your body can use it right away, unlike the folic acid, which your body has to methylate, kind of like this complicated digestion process that helps you get nutrients. But the point is
Before you
if
sell
you
people
want,
the solution, what kind of problems does it cause to have your folate receptors, your enzymes all taken up by folic acid?
well, the main result is going to be a folate deficiency. And the symptoms of folate deficiencies are pretty bad. I'll read out a few of them here. So you can have, well, folate is also called vitamin B9, can lead to fatigue, pale skin, shortness of breath, irritability, mood changes, poor concentration, mouth ulcers, digestive issues, heart palpitations, numbness and tingling. What's so horrible about this is some of the most common diseases and conditions I've heard of Americans having, like fatigue, huge, shortness of breath, numbing or tingling. I hear that in like all old people, and old people are the ones who've been eating this folic acid for the most years. If you were born in the 2000s, you haven't even been eating the folic acid as many years as people who are older. Also, I noticed like my grandma, like she always was healthy her entire life, and all of a sudden they start enriching things with folic acid in 1993. And like 10 years later, she has Parkinson's disease. And a shortage of folate can lead to neurological conditions like Parkinson's disease. So what if she had this gene, which 40 to 60% of people do, all of a sudden her body wasn't able to get enough folate, and she starts damaging her own neurological system, all because she's eating some synthetic thing that should not be in her diet. Also, folic acid, it exists nowhere in nature. It's not found anywhere on the face of the earth. Totally man-made, and totally should never be in your body. You can avoid it by just buying organic flour. Organic products don't have it. Also, for non-organic, if you're trying to save money, a lot of 100% whole wheat products also don't have the folic acid. So just look at the label, but if it's anything like highly processed, like a cookie or a brownie, it's going to have it in it. Pancakes, it's terrible. But that's pretty much wraps up what I had to say on the topic. Also, there's another one to watch out for, vitamin B12. It's actually, I believe, made with cyanide as part of the molecule. It's not like, I'm not saying there is cyanide in it, but it kind of is like one of the things that the molecule breaks down into. They claim your liver can handle it, but what if you already have a bad liver and now you're just adding more cyanide into your diet every day? Just one of the most toxic compounds on the planet. But kind of, what are your final takes on the topic, Levi?
My final takes? I don't know. I'm definitely suspicious of my food, more suspicious than I've ever been of my food. I would like to grow my own food. It's pretty much where it brings me to on that topic. Or at least buy things that are not enriched. We've been
It's
trying to
hard.
do.
When
Yeah.
you try to avoid that at the grocery store, you significantly limit what you can buy by like 95% of items. If you're trying to avoid seed oils and folic acid at the store, it takes away so many products. And even a lot of organic products will still be made with seed oils. So if you're looking to avoid them, organic's not even enough. We really need like a new level of food categorizations where it's just not like toxic. Like, can we have a category of food that's just not toxic? That would be great. Like your cows not being fed Bovir, which apparently can cause infertility in men, or they're going to claim that it can't. But if you look at its safety data sheet, it literally says it causes infertility problems. So I definitely don't think it should be added to your cow's food. And also, they don't have to list it on the ingredients because it's not an ingredient. It's a health supplement for the cow. So now we have to worry about not only what's on our ingredient list, but what's not on our ingredient list. So I'm really glad RFK is coming into office. I really hope he can fix some of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure, our final takes on it, Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for RFK and getting some healthy options. Personally, I don't really, I don't know. I don't think too much about it. I'm all about what tastes good is good for me. That's what I think. But if they want to give some healthier options too, fuck it, I'm all for that.
All right, sounds pretty good. I think we're ready to sign off.
Cool. Before we completely bail, I wanted to throw one little bone out there. In New Jersey, 17 rabbis were arrested for running a crime ring to sell organs from living people. I don't think that
How recent?
Yeah, that looks like an old video.
Yeah, it might be an old video, but it just got brought up by. This is the guy that made the child trafficking documentary, at least the one that we watched. And I don't know, something to look into a little bit more. I haven't looked
Oh.
into it at all, other than listening to the video, which I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. But
Yeah, same with what happened in fucking Guatemala.
The second result on that is from Medium claiming a fake news story and Blood Libel, a botched 10-year-old story about rabbis. So I guess Medium is at least claiming that's 100% fake news. So probably should do a little more research on these very controversial statements before we throw them out there with just because you saw a video on X.
I was just throwing it out there. It may or may not be true. Just a little bone to think about.
The trafficking in Guatemala that was real.
The alleged traffic, and they haven't been convicted, but yes, definitely looks bad.
Definitely looks really bad. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully next week it's not as turbulent.
Next week will be Inauguration Day.
That's right.
We are exactly 1 week away.
So we
Holy
will have
shit.
a new president on next week's episode. Pretty big deal.
Awesome.
And hopefully, there's no big boy bombs that go off on Inauguration Day.
I'm knocking on wood.
I have my worries.
Let's all hope for just a smooth inauguration in a week until then. All right.
Peace, boys.
Peace, boys.
Care.